decide to become an LPN first. Now, in full disclosure, I am not in ADN school or BSN school. I am not furthering my education at this point in time. That may or may not happen, but at this point in time, I am simply an LPN and not furthering my education. But I decided to become an LPN first for a few different reasons. Those of you who are old enough to remember the 2008 economic crisis know that it was very hard to get jobs back then. Prior to the 2008 economic crisis, I was working on cars at a Chevrolet dealership. Well, when the market crashed in 2008, I lost my job. I got laid off. I had to eat, so I went back to school. And I started looking into the classified ads, and I could see nursing jobs everywhere. And I figured, hey, that's something that I should be able to do. That's something that I can stomach. That's something that I can do. Further inspection, I learned about LPNs. I didn't even know what an LPN was. I learned that a such thing as an LPN existed. I thought an RN was the only nurse that there was. And that the requirements to become an LPN were not only less prerequisites, but also less time in school. You only had to spend a year in school, and you had to do all your prereqs. So I decided that looks right for me. And at the time, Obamacare hadn't kicked in yet, or Affordable Care Act, whatever you want to call it, had not kicked in yet, and LPNs were everywhere. LPNs were in hospitals, nursing homes, doctor's offices, clinics, research, you name it, LPNs were everywhere that an RN was. Now, I don't know if the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare had something to do with the LPNs getting gone from those places, but it may or may not have happened like that. Because I know as soon as the Affordable Care Act kicked in, the LPNs were starting to get more and more scarce. So originally, my plan was to work med-surg at a hospital. I was working at a hospital. I had completed my CNA, got a job at a hospital, and I decided to stay an LPN. I was going to do my prereqs, go to school to be an LPN, because the prereqs were shorter and the school itself was shorter. I could stay at the hospital as an LPN and work, till I die or retire at this hospital as a med-surg nurse. That was my plan. And I could do that as an LPN. I had no further ambitions other than that. I could make enough money to feed myself and my family. I had one child at the time and my wife. Therefore, working med-surg as an LPN, everybody would be able to eat, we would have clothes, we could afford things. So I completed my degree, and then just before I finished my LPN, I graduated in August, and it was about April, somewhere in there, the LPNs got gone. I mean, that's when it really kicked in, that the LPNs were getting gone. And now my plan, was kind of shot. I went into long-term care. I've done home health. I'm not in, where I work now. But like I said, my family was fed and we had clothes. I was getting paid as a nurse. But it wasn't really out of laziness that I went to be the LPN first, but it was more or less what I needed at the time. I couldn't feed I could feed everybody as a CNA, but we couldn't really have things that we wanted. When I became the LPN, that's when we started being able to afford things. So the pay increase from a CNA to an LPN was one of the big reasons also. The difference between RN and LPN to me was not worth it. There was no reason for me to spend that extra year in nursing school or that extra semester in prereqs, so it'd be another year and a half to get that ADN. It wasn't worth it to me you know, because my family had to eat now. So it was not worth it at the time for me to go through all of that just to get the ADN. You know, my plan could work as an LPN. I could be a med-surg nurse on the hospital floor, and that was my end goal. And like I said, it may or may not be to blame for the Affordable Care Act, but it definitely, about the time that the Affordable Care Act hit, that's definitely about the time you started seeing less and less LPNs. Is there job growth as an LPN? Yes. I've never been without a job. I'll say that. I've never been without a job as an LPN. You know, as an ADN, would my possibilities be more? Yes. I would probably have more possibilities, but not necessarily what I want. You know, I'm very happy and very content where I'm at now. Would I do it again? Would I just go to the LPN again? If all situations were the same, I would do it again, because it was shorter, and you know, it fulfills the needs that I have for my family. I would do the LPN again. If you have the time, or if your dream job is to be a such and such nurse, a specialist nurse, I would encourage go for the ADN or go for the BSN. But if you are just going to be just happy being a nurse that can work at a certain place as an LPN, go be an LPN. There is nothing wrong with that. Go do your LPN and do that and be happy with that. You know, that's just how I feel. You know, even though I don't get to stay at the hospital anymore, and that's what I wanted to do, I'm not upset. So I'm very happy, very content where I'm at now. So I hope it helps. Thank you much.